Welcome to part 3 of our series about ancestry and DNA and family trees. And in this video, we're going to take a look at the document you see right over here. Right over here. It's a Jamaican slave register. I'm going to show you how I found it and what this document actually says. So let's take a look. Okay, so we're in the family tree section of ancestry.ca. I actually exported my family tree from familysearch.org. I imported it into Ancestry.ca, and Ancestry.ca was able to find even more information about the members of my family. So I've expanded my great-grandfather's family tree. His name's Evo Rankin, and I have his parents, and I have his grandparents. The one we're specifically looking at is Frederick Rankin. And if you know anything about the slave trade in the Caribbean, the British ended the slave trade in the 1830s. And Frederick Rankin here was born in 1821. So we know that he was most likely born a slave. Ancestry was able to match Frederick Rankin, my ancestor, up with a Frederick that was owned on a Rankin plantation in the 1800s prior to the abolition of slavery. And that's the record that I'm going to show you right now. Okay, so here is the document. It's a very old document, actually a document from the year 1823. And as you can see, the writing is beautiful, but it's very difficult to read. And when I first got it, I could not decipher 90% of what was written in this document. I actually had to call for help from some friends of mine in my Facebook group. But I was able to decipher the entire document now after some research and finding other documents of the same type. So I'm going to read through the sections so that you can understand what they actually say. So the top section says, Jamaica SS, a return of slaves in the parish of Westmoreland in the possession of Alex James Rankin as lessee from M. J. A. Rankin on the 28th day of June in the year of our Lord, 1823. So that's what this top portion says. And then we have a midsection with a table in it. And the table consists of the names of the people that this return is going to be talking about. So it says this. It says males by last return 10, females 15, total by last return 35. Now it looks like the math is a little off there, but I'm assuming that these count for fully grown adult men and women, and there are probably children that are around that account for the 10 extra people. That's just my assumption. Okay, so the rest of the table says this. So it's divided by names, color, age, African or Creole. And now African means that the slave was born in Africa and arrived on a slave ship. Creole means that the slave was born on the island. Any additional remarks? Increase and cause thereof. Okay, so it's divided into males and females. So under males, it says Frederick, and that's my great-great-great-grandfather. His color was Negro, so he's black like me. At the time of this register, he was 2 years old. African or Creole, he was Creole. That means he was born on the island. And remarks that he's son of Diana. So that's amazing because now I know what my great grandmother's name was, Diana. And the reason for increase was by birth. So he was born, and that's why there's an increase in the slave population on this plantation. And if it was a decrease, they would say the reason for decrease. So that's my ancestor. Another child was born at that same time, around that same time. His name was Edward, and he was also Negro. He was 2. He was also Creole, and he's the son of Nanny, another slave on the plantation. And the reason for the increase is by birth also. And in the female section, there's Sydney. And Sydney was Negro. Sydney's age isn't listed, but she was born on the island. And she was a decrease. A decrease. So there's two increases, one decrease. And the decrease was because of her death. So it says number of slaves on the 28th day of June 1823, 30. Wait, 32. 32. Births since last return, 2. Deaths since last return, 1. And in the bottom section, it says, I, Alexander James Rankin, do swear that the above list and return is a true, perfect, and complete list of return, and to the best of my knowledge and belief, in every particular therein mentioned, of all and every slave and slave possessed by me as lessee, considered as most permanently settled, worked or employed in the parish of Westmoreland on the 28th day of June in the year of our Lord, 1823, without fraud, deceit, or evasion, so help me God. And that's signed Alex J. Rankin. Okay, so we just looked at the slave register and we got some valuable information from that register. We now know the names of the owners of our ancestors. And with that information, we can go to an online database to find out even more information about the plantation and the owners. But most specifically, how much those owners were paid after the end of slavery. That's right, I said how much they were paid after the end of slavery, because after the British abolished slavery, the owners said, no, 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 you can't just abolish our slaves. We paid for them. You're going to have to pay us for the slaves. And that's exactly what the British government did. They went to each plantation, they looked at the amount of slaves and their condition, and then wrote a check to each slave owner for an appropriate amount. So the slave owners received reparations. The slaves just kind of went off and tried to make a life for themselves. Sad but true. Sad but true. The University College of London, they did a study of the documents that the British government produced during this time. And in those documents, again, you can find the slave owners, the names of the plantation, and the amount that was paid to each slave owner. So let's take a quick look. Okay, so I went to the website. It's ucl.ac.uk.lbs. And you can read some more information about it here. There was actually a special that they did on PBS when this study first came out, and this website and advertising it for people to look up information. When all of this just came out, a study was done about this whole process of reparations for slave owners. But I'm going to click on search the database. And I am going to look for an individual. Okay, I think I'm going to look for individual. I'm going to type Rankin. Oh, I had it there before. And let's see. If I click on, I'm going to change this to Jamaica as the colony. And I'm going to go to Westmoreland because that's where my great 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 grandparent is from. And I'm going to say view records. And let's see what we find. Well, we just saw Judith Rankin, and she's marked as an awardee. And that means she is the person that received the funds from the British government. And she received £220, 13 shillings, and 4 farthings, I think. I have a medieval price list. The D stands for pence. Okay. So £220, 13 shillings, and 4 pence for 35 enslaved people. And if I click on her, let's see if we can find any information about her. Well, there isn't much. Some other people have a pretty decent write-up about their lives. But we do know that, yep, we see what she was awarded. We know that the name of the plantation was Content 2. Content 2 was the name of the plantation. And we know that, oh, okay. So we remember seeing Alexander James Rankin in the slave register. Well, Judith's his mother. Judith is his mother, and she was the widow of James Rankin. Okay, because we saw James Rankin's name in that document as well. It says that he's the owner, and the slaves were leased to Alexander. So James is Alexander's father. And when we click on Alexander, we learn that he's also an attorney. He was the attorney, and he was the leasee, as we saw in the slave register, for the enslaved people on Content 2, which was the name of the plantation. So if I click on Content 2, let's see what we find. Basically the same information that we have. Um, oh, well, we have some estate information throughout the years. So we know that the earliest here is 1810, and it shows the number of enslaved people, along with some other information. Oh, this one's interesting. It tells us that more information can be found at JamaicanFamilySearch.com, which is a really, really incredible resource for people of Jamaican ancestry. Um, a woman went to Jamaica and compiled all this information and uploaded it to her website and made it free and searchable. At one point, you had to pay, but now it's free and searchable, and you can find some valuable information about ancestors if you take a look there. But yes, there's a plethora of information here that you can take a look at if you find out the name of the plantation that your ancestors were a part of. So I think that's all I want to show you in terms of the slave register and understanding what happened after slavery with the British owners and understanding what the names of these plantations were. So I hope you gather that information. I hope it's useful to you, and I hope that you're able to use it in your own search because it's a joy to share this stuff with you. So God bless, and I hope to see you in the next video.